What the hell? What's happened to us?
I don't know, but suddenly I feel all sweet and warm and fuzzy. It seems we're in a universe where everything is drawn by Disney.
You know, sometimes I feel like the next Disney live-action remake will do everything it can to be even worse than the last one. They started out as just pointless remakes that were just lesser versions of their animated counterpart. Somehow they pulled in a lot of money, and even if they did flop, Disney would somehow still make their money back through merchandise sales. It seemed like a win-win for a long time, but they made less and less money as time went on, and Disney as a brand was less and less loved, up to the point that their merchandise started selling less and less. I've reviewed every Disney live-action remake from the first one, 1994's The Jungle Book to The Black Little Mermaid. I think the worst one by far is Peter Pan and Wendy, but from what I've seen of the Snow White leaks, I think that might change pretty soon. I was expecting it to be yet another girl boss movie, and for the dwarves to be ethnically diverse, and also hashtag not all men. But Disney absolutely blew my expectations out of the water because apparently they weren't low enough. Instead of blowing them out of the water into the sky, they blew them out of the water as in underneath the seabed, deep underground. Now I try to be as middle ground as possible and listen to both sides of the political spectrum. I'm not here to be a grifter for one side or the other. I understand that many minorities would like to be represented more often in movies, comics, TV shows, and video games. After all, most characters for the longest time were white. Now the overwhelming majority of the ones I've talked to have said they would prefer an original character who looks like them, rather than what many of them have described as just a recolor of an already established character. I remember I was talking to this one friend of mine who is Latino, and he described it as, and I quote here, a white person's hand-me-down character. Hollywood in its current state has this obsession with re-releasing established IPs and characters while absolutely not making any new original IPs. Don't get me wrong, I don't always think changing a character's race is bad, but I feel as if the race is not the only form of representation we should be concerned about. And that's why I hate how Disney is handling representation in their live-action remake of Snow White. Making the Little Mermaid black is one thing, but race-bending a character who literally has the name Snow White is on a whole nother level. Aside from racial minority groups, do you know who else has very little representation? Albinos! If they wanted to be progressive, they could have given it to someone who's an albino and just dyed their hair black. And I think there are very few people who would disagree with me saying that the role of dwarves should be given to people with dwarfism. Aside from the actor who played Willow and the girl who played the dwarf in that awful show Witcher Blood Origin, Peter Dinklage is the only actor with dwarfism that I can think of. According to Peter Dinklage, the depiction of dwarves from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is an offensive and outdated depiction of people of challenged height. But he'll happily be in the movie just as long as there's no other people with dwarfism aside from himself. I'm sure this is entirely done as a move to fight for the rights of little people, and not at all just because Peter Dinklage wants to be the only famous actor with dwarfism. But in all seriousness, he seems to think little of everyone else like him, and he just wants to elevate himself above everyone else. I think what he's doing is incredibly short-sighted. The dwarves being played by multiple races of people, but not by actual dwarves, means that little people will end up getting the shorter end of the stick when it comes to representation. Peter Dinklage 100% knows what he's doing. The dwarves in Snow White were fantasy creatures, not humans with dwarfism. The conversation about diversity and inclusion shouldn't stop at race. And people who try to use progressive talking points only to look better at the expense of other people's careers should be mocked for the little greedy men they are. Unsurprisingly, Peter Dinklage is getting backlash from the little person community. Looks like he's dealing with people his own size for once. Peter, you only got to where you are because of roles like this. I think you're just scared of the person your size is going to become bigger than you. You can make the argument that giving roles of dwarves only to people with dwarfism is offensive, but so many little people have had their lives changed in big ways because of them. Also, what's even offensive about the dwarves from Snow White? They mine diamonds, so they're clearly rich, and they were hard workers. This is not the same thing as depicting people of African descent eating fried chicken, smoking weed, and being unemployed. In fact, I looked it up, and little people mining isn't only not offensive, but it's historically accurate. They worked in mines because it was a job that was easier to complete by people who are small. I'm sure there's a lot of short smart people who have big dreams about being in a Disney movie, and Peter has taken that dream away from not 1, but 7. So right-leaning people aren't happy because of the race and gender bending in this movie, and left-leaning people aren't happy because people with dwarfism aren't being represented and they lost out on big opportunities. But I'm not gonna put all the blame on Peter Dinklage, because Disney chose to listen to him instead of reaching out to others in the dwarfism community. Once again, Mickey, in trying to be progressive to please everyone, you ended up pleasing no one. Instead of being called dwarves, they're called the 7 magical creatures, and wow, those costumes look like they came from Walmart. Somehow, Snow White's outfit looks even worse. They just took a kid's Halloween outfit and made it bigger! The Daily Beast quickly said that those images were fake, but the sad thing is they were real. Yes, the person in the Snow White costume is an extra and not the main actress, but this is how they are gonna look in the movie, and that's the important part! Maybe Disney will pull an ugly Sonic and change out the actors and the costumes. But I doubt it. Now, the props and the actors are only the tip of this dumpster fire, because just like the last few Disney live-action remakes, it's made for the mythical modern audience. This Snow White is going to have a modern edge. It's not about her finding her true love, it's about her becoming a leader and having agency. It's not about a boy, it's about what she wants for herself. Wow, so she's like every modern-day female Disney character. After all, nothing's more original than telling the same story over and over. I can't wait to add another Mary Sue to my list. Like, I gotta ask, who in the world is falling for this? Mulan is not like the other girls, she's brave and fights for herself. Wendy is not like other girls in media, she's strong and fights for herself. The new Little Mermaid is not like any other woman you've ever seen in media. She doesn't need a man, she's brave and she fights for herself. And now they're doing the exact same thing again. Tell me, who's falling for this? It gotta be at least a few people or they wouldn't be saying it over and over again. Every woman in old movies used to have the exact same personality. They were pretty and nice. And now in modern times, they all also have the exact same personalities. They're just strong and empowered. I've talked about the problems with things like this too much already in tons of videos. So if you want to learn more, check out my Downfall of Disney Remakes video, or my Disney Sues video. I understand that the original Disney Snow White movie is really outdated in terms of plot and pacing, but something tells me that today's hyperactive kids would rather watch that old movie than this one. Oh, and the evil stepmother is going to be played by Gal Gadot, who you might know from her role as Wonder Woman. What? Like, how is the scene with her and the magic mirror going to go down? Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? You dumb bitch. You're Gal Gadam, and damn, you're hot. Now you might be thinking to yourself, wait, I thought there were 7 dwarves, but I only see 8. Who's the guy in the front? That can't be Prince Charming now, can it? No, it's some guy named Jonathan. Yep, that's who he is, just some guy named Jonathan. The animated Snow White is so much more than just another Disney movie. It's the first full-length animated movie in America, if not in the entire world. Adjusting for inflation, to this day, it's still the highest grossing animated film of all time. Disney fucking this up will damage their brand more than any other Disney live-action remake yet. It's essentially the cornerstone of their company. This is more than likely not going to be the last bad Disney live-action remake, but it's going to be the one that does the most damage. Say what you will about the Little Mermaid, but at least it had a mermaid in it, and it was underwater. Sure, she's a light-skinned black girl and not a redhead. Isn't it funny that Disney keeps trying to push that one actress who was the leader of the Flag Smashers in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the leader of the rebellion at the end of Solo, a Star Wars story, and the Night Girl in Willow. Maybe at long last they saw her acting wasn't good enough to be the lead role in a movie. But this movie doesn't have 7 dwarves, and Snow White isn't white. So just like the cake, the title is a lie. The only thing in the title that isn't a lie are 2 3-letter words. And the. 2 bland words that can be put into anything, and this was only made possible through tons and tons of sanitization. Tell me in the comments what you guys think the title should be. Something along the lines of Snow, Tan, and the 7 politically correct companions. I'm just glad at long last Hollywood is finally dying. All I gotta say is good riddance. Also, isn't it funny that Peter Dinklage was in Game of Thrones and that had a character with the first name Snow, and now something like that is happening a second time? I can't be the only one who finds that to be a little funny. By the way, tell me if you guys like the way I've been talking in this video compared to past ones. I've thought about speeding up the way I talk after being recommended to do so by my editors and my roommate. Also, one more thing, I've spent a lot of time and money making my The Failure of the Witcher Blood Origins video, and almost none of you guys have seen it. I haven't uploaded it in some time, so it might not have ended up in your sub box. Trust me, you have to see my review to understand just how unbelievably bad this show is. Also, YouTube, by the off chance you're watching, please stop deleting my pinned comments. They all suddenly disappeared one day. So for those of you who really like my robot voice but you can't find it in the pinned comment anymore, just check the description. If you like what I do, consider supporting me on Patreon. For just $5 or more a month, you can have me say a line at the end of a video. Today's line comes from Bloody Eclipse, who wanted me to say fish. Yep, that's it, just the word fish. That's $5 well spent in my opinion. Anyways, the next video is going to be a quick review of the movie Barbie, so get ready for that.